Hello, everyone. My name is Elena Silenok. I'm a software engineer, entrepreneur, and angel investor. I'm also founder and CEO of Clothia, a curated marketplace for emerging fashion designers. We started with physical goods, and we are now launching fashion NFTs. Today, I'm going to talk about the similarities between fashion and Web3. After all, luxury goods are the original NFTs. Let's do a quick show of hands, please. How many of you here in the audience own NFTs? Okay, a lot of people. How many of you own luxury goods? Watches, sneakers, handbags? Oh, wow, way fewer. So to a traditional audience, I would say buy more NFTs, but I think for all y'all, I'll say buy more luxury goods. So, next slide, please. Let's do a quick history lesson. Some of you might be familiar with the Birkin bag, created by Hermes in 1984 and named after Jane Birkin, a singer, actor, and cultural icon. Jane and her partner at the time, Serge Gainsbourg, were kind of like the original Kim and Kanye of their era, massive celebrities and cultural influencers. Their song Je t'aime, released in 1968, literally broke the internet of the time, the airwaves, and was considered so provocative that it was banned in Spain, Sweden, Italy, Portugal, Brazil, and the UK. According to Hermes lore, Jane Birkin was seated next to then Hermes president when she spilled the contents of her bag all over the floor and complained that she couldn't find a good casual leather handbag. So Hermes made a new bag and named it after her to capture some of Jane Birkin's je ne sais quoi magic. The world was becoming more casual in the 80s, and traditional rigid handbags no longer served that lifestyle. The Birkin bag rode the casual trend, embedding itself more deeply into the social and cultural media at the time until it reached true iconic fashion status. Today, the Birkin bag is worn by celebrities like the Kardashians and has entire online communities devoted to it. It costs more than $10,000 if you're lucky enough to find one, and some words upwards of $250,000 for rare coveted versions. It is indeed the OG CryptoPunk. Next slide. So, what does this have to do with NFTs? Some people say NFTs are just a JPEG. You could also say a Birkin bag is just a collection of assembled materials worth a fraction of what you pay for it. But you aren't really buying a JPEG or a handbag. You're buying a status symbol positioned in a complex series of intertwined cultural and social networks that give it rich historical value. You're also buying access to a community, a sense of accomplishment from owning a fancy item, a level of craftsmanship that comes with it, participation in a certain historical context, and a healthy dose of status signaling, of course. Next slide. Whether we like it or not, the items we buy, wear, and use tell other people something very specific about us. While a designer handbag itself might be beautiful and functional, much of the appeal of owning it comes from the fact that both the design and logo are instantly recognizable by others. Do you want to signal access and fashion cred? You buy a Birkin bag. Do you want to signal early adopter status and a certain coolness factor? You buy a Bored Ape. Another aspect to the appeal of luxury in designer items is the sense of accomplishment, of that having arrived, that one feels when making the expensive purchase. I still remember the feeling of buying my first Louis Vuitton handbag. I was in college, and it was a small red leather handbag that I was so proud of. I still have it in my closet because it reminds me of that time in my life and the sense of achievement I felt purchasing my first truly fancy designer item. Similarly, purchasing many popular and well-known NFTs like CryptoPunks, Ether Rocks, or Bored Apes signals to others that you're part of an entire elite community, one that is on top of current trends and very knowledgeable about NFTs, crypto, and Web3. It also allows you to identify like-minded individuals who may be interested in and passionate about the same things as you are. And as we learned this week, owning a fancy NFT also allows you to go to some really cool parties. Next slide. Next slide. In addition to community building and status signaling, both luxury items and NFTs demonstrate a certain level of craftsmanship and are truly representative of the historical context in which they were created. When you purchase a designer item, like the Birkin bag, you're not just buying a beautiful luxury item, but also investing into something that represents hundreds of years of traditional craftsmanship. And you're also supporting the individual artisans around the world that the luxury brands have worked hard to preserve. Everything from traditional lace making, hand embroidery, couture garment construction, leather tanning, and many more. Similarly, the purchaser of Everydays, the first 5,000 days, Beeple's original NFT that sold for $69 million at an auction in March earlier this year, owns a historically important piece of art, both in its uniqueness and artistic craftsmanship and the incredible perspective that it brings. As much might want to wish it, you can't go back in time and relive Paris in the 70s or digital culture of the 2010s. But you can still own a little piece of history, whether that's a Birkin bag or a CryptoPunk. Next slide. And of course, we can't talk about luxury designer goods or NFTs without talking about their monetary value. Many owners of designer items talk a lot about the investment and resale value of their purchases. For example, the Birkin bag as an investment has outperformed the stock market for the last 10 years. Resale value is also an important factor to consider when making expensive purchases. Designer branded goods do tend to hold their value much better than their generic counterparts. But are physical luxury goods really the best way for fashion lovers to spend their hard-earned investment dollars? These days, NFTs and crypto are where many savvy investors, art collectors, and celebrities choose to spend their hard-earned dollars, leading to what seems like daily news stories about amazing purchases and about the profitability of these choices. I love seeing tweets from people making enough money in NFTs to pay off their student loans, take a fancy vacation, or even buy a house. That's really making the world very different. Next slide. So, as we've mentioned, there are lots of similarities between luxury goods and NFTs. Whether that be their inclusion into a unique community, participation in a historical moment, inherent sense of accomplishment and achievement, or just plain old-fashioned status signaling. But in a time where conversion into a digital world is ever more accelerated, it's really time to take a step back and take a good look at how we as fashion lovers consume physical goods. Maybe it's high time to learn a little something from people like Paris Hilton, Justin Blau, and others who are jumping into the NFT market and take a step forward and take fashion forward into the digital future. This is something we're working on with Clothia, launching a fashion-forward, fashion-centric NFTs to give our fashion designers the opportunity to mint their own NFTs and participate in the Web3 cultural movement. As consumers become more involved in the digital creator economy, I think many will want to purchase NFTs to both support their favorite artists, but also to participate in this very exciting emerging industry. And whatever is your status symbol of choice, whether it's luxury items or NFTs, just remember that in Web3, we're all going to make it. Thank you very much.